What's going on, Jerk Faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. We are having this conversation in the day because this is a pre-tape. And you know what that means? It's all Robert's fault.
Always.
It's always Robert's fault, I guess. He has to go into work at an ungodly hour, and so he could have done the the normal live broadcast, but me being the gracious person that I am, you decided to accommodate him.
How gregarious of you.
Yes. Yeah, as I said, we're back. Yeah, we're here with another episode. Co-piloting this thing with me is the homeboy Rob.
Yo.
Yeah, and we have a lot of interesting things to talk about tonight.
It's been a wild week.
It has been, it really has. But just really quickly, then before we get into the insanity, let's get it. Let's just catch up, do a little catch up. Yes, because since last week, I haven't really seen Rob, so yeah. So what's new, Rob?
So what? I mean, nothing like super important, but I've been playing the Spider-Man game for PlayStation 4 this past week, and let me tell you, that is damn awesome. It's really good. Yeah, it's. I mean, there's a couple of annoying things about it, but for the most, like the story is great, the gameplay is great. I literally couldn't put it down. And I had a lot of fun with it. They had like all the great villains in there.
Mm-hmm.
A few surprises. Yeah, I'm playing the DLC right now, and the DLC story is really good too. So it's got 3 chapters of content with that, and it's been if you like Spider-Man and you own a PS4, so the game right now, the ultimate or the full edition with all the DLC and whatnot is available for like $20. So I highly recommend picking it up. And yeah, if you're a fan of Spider-Man, you'll love this.
Cool.
Yeah, it like, and they have all sorts of like the different Spider-Man suits. You have the classic Spider-Man suit. They have one specifically from like for this game that they did, which is on the cover. There we go. Yeah, they have like the Spider-Man suit with the white spider on the front. That one's pretty cool looking. They have the current MCU Spider-Man costumes, like the Stark suit, the Iron Spider suit, which actually is probably my second favorite Spider-Man costume, the Iron Spider.
From the MCU or from the comic books?
From the MCU.
Okay.
Yeah, I personally think that Spider-Man costume is pretty slick looking, the Iron Spider. They got like Spider-Man 2099. They have the homemade Spider-Man costume. They even have Sam Raimi's Spider-Man costume, the Tobey Maguire one. So,
oh wow,
yeah. So it's pretty cool. They have all sorts of different like costumes. They all have different, for the most part, all have different power-ups. So a lot of customization and just kind of finding out what works for your gameplay and whatnot. And I'm having a ton of fun with it. I'm almost done, but like I can't wait for there to be the sequel, which I think there's going to be a sequel because the way that they ended it, it's more than likely going to be a sequel. And this is the same company that did the Batman Arkham games, and it actually outsold the top-selling Batman Arkham game. So I assume that they're going to make another one.
Right. I mean, it only make logical sense for them to do so.
Right. So that was kind of what I was doing. Then this week I'm getting ready for some exciting racing at one of my favorite racetracks in Bristol, Tennessee. It's a very high banked half mile short track. It's notorious for a lot of close racing, rubbing fenders, drivers getting pissed off with one another. Usually really hot, so it's creates a lot of tension and friction, and it's always been a pretty exciting race. So, um, I'm looking forward to that. So if anyone's into racing or you're wanting to get into racing, this will be the weekend to watch.
That's cool. Um, yeah. As for me, not yeah, nothing really to report. Just been I have been applying to a lot of jobs lately. Because I
Mm-hmm.
know fall is usually when a lot of companies they're looking to find freelancers or whatnot.
Right.
So just putting my stuff out there, getting my resume in front of as many eyeballs as possible. Um, um, well, oh yeah, this past weekend specifically though, it was my cousin's husband's birthday, um, and that was a good time. I saw a lot of old faces that I haven't seen in a while, so that was fun. And yeah, and my cousin got a magician, more of like a mentalist type of magician for the event.
Yeah. Oh,
And
one of the guys that like hypnotize you and all that
yeah,
those
yeah,
type of
yeah, 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 exactly. And so and so yeah, there are certain things that, of course, that were truly perplexing. Um, and and since then I have been kind of racking my brain and trying to figure out how he was able to accomplish certain things. But a lot of it, a lot of those mental tricks is kind of what is it? More about like susceptibility to persuasion or suggestion. And so like
right,
a
right,
lot, because like a lot of it was like oh pick a random page out of this book and like and then also like, all right, pick a word, but it has to be like this many words long, and so it's like it would in if, especially if if the mentalist is familiar with that book, I'm sure he's gone through it to find those certain words that are this many words long or whatever for the trick. So
right.
yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that I wasn't mesmerized a little bit by what I saw, but you know,
Well, you remember
the
what's it
skeptic in
called?
me
You
was
remember
just
that?
like, oh, this is all bullshit.
You remember that? It was. Oh, it's probably about 20 years ago now, but that guy, like, there was this show called Crossing Over with John Edwards. Wasn't he essentially kind of like a mentalist in that sense?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I remember. Yeah, and it's like it was funny too, because when you would like talk to celebrities, it's like, well,
Yeah.
because they're public figures, it'd be easy to find like some sort of some kind of information on them. I'm sure like like especially like the bigger names. Like I'm sure like they have a Wikipedia, and so it'd be really easy to find out some of these details. Like, oh, I feel like you had like a brother, and it's like and and I'm seeing a pipe. It's like, oh my god, yeah, he OD'd. It's like, yes, exactly. It's like
Yeah. Oh my! And it's like he got people to give him the information that he needed, and I don't know. You could argue both ways, where like it was kind of a sinister thing to do, giving people
uh-huh.
like kind of this false hope or whatever. But maybe in some ways too, it gave some people a little bit of closure to whatever they were going through. I'm I'm a little torn. I kind of see it both way. I see it both ways. Um, Maybe a little bit on the fucked up side though.
I mean, I guess my point, well, to respond to what you said about, maybe giving them closure or what have you, but I think, closure, absence of truth is not really closure.
Yeah, and that's where I was like, yeah, it's kind of probably more on the fucked up side.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it makes them feel better, but it's like, it's what's the analogy here I'm looking for? Uh, I guess it's kind of the same effect as the placebo effect, where it's like
Yeah,
you tell them it's medicine, and like they take it, and then they all of a sudden, like, even though it's just a sugar pill, it's like, they miraculously feel better, and it's like, and it's just like, and so it's like all psychosomatic or what have you.
and then whatchamacallit, there was I think it wouldn't be quite so bad if, let's say, John Edwards, like, he actually really believed that he had that power, and maybe so he thought he was giving people the truth, but he probably knew exactly what he was doing. So that's why it's kind of like, I don't know how, like, you can lie to somebody like that though. It's just something about that bugs me.
Right. I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna. I'm not. I mean, I'm not gonna. Because I
Maybe
don't
he
know
did
enough
it
about
like
him,
he
and I
was.
don't know, enough about like what he does to like make some sort of like moral statement, or disparage his intentions.
Like said, he made.
I'm reserving judgment unless like something something truly scandalous comes out, like he ripped off like this old lady of like millions of dollars or whatever, and she ended up dying or whatever or something like that. I'm not, until certain information comes out, I'm not gonna necessarily ding the guy, for what he might genuinely believe he's doing is, something beneficial.
Yeah, that's. I don't think that he had any sinister intentions. Like, I think maybe he thought he was doing something good
Yeah, I mean,
and
because
having to make
yeah,
a shit ton of money off of
I'm
it.
not reading any like sort of nefarious or malicious intent from John Edwards.
Sorry, I think you were talking about a mentalist. That's the first. That was the thing that just like popped into my
Yeah,
into my head. It was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that guy.
and that's how conversations happen. But yeah, it
Yeah.
was a good time. A lot of the people that I haven't seen in a long time, they've went went and had babies and stuff, and so I was kind of like freaking out. I was like, oh my god, you're a dad now, or you're a mom now?
Oh, good God. No,
I'm like, he's like, you're a parent.
oh, Jesus.
No, but it's cool.
Wait, you went with dancing Jason, right? Like, he was that the pictures I saw that you posted?
I mean, I didn't go with him, but yeah, it was the same party. Because yeah, because me, him, and my cousin's husband, we were all like friends
Oh, I see. Yeah.
prior to my cousin meeting him, and so
Right.
yeah, I always joke around that because we all met at church, and I was the first one to go to that church with her husband, and then I told her about it, and then she started coming out, and that's kind of how they met. So I always joke around and say like, yeah, you have me to thank, or
Your
hate.
life.
Yeah, you have me to
Yeah.
thank or for me to hate, over the situation. So, or no, blame. That's right, blame. Sorry.
Yeah. Hate works too.
Yeah, hate works too, but I think funny the because like thanks and hate aren't really opposites, but thanking and blaming are are a little bit
That
more
that's
in,
true.
yeah, within this,
It's like,
are more on the same wavelength.
yeah, they get into an argument. It's like, fucking Andy.
I know. like, thanks, it's all your fault.
Oh man, it sounds like it was a lot of fun though.
Oh yeah, it was great. We were at at my cousin's husband's parents' place. It was really nice. They had like a little, fire pit in the back, and with the kids. To cap off the end of the night, we roasted marshmallows.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it was fun, because I got to teach the kids proper marshmallow roasting technique.
That's yeah. There is a definite technique to that. You don't just like jam it in the fire and charcoal it to
Exactly.
death. Like that's the mistake everyone makes. You have
Right.
to hold it at a certain elevation above the fire so
Yeah.
you get that nice browning around it and it
See,
expands.
mine is constant movement, but also rotation.
Yeah. You got to have the rotation.
Yeah, and so all the kids were like they're like burning their marshmallows, and here I am like roasting like the perfect like golden brown puffed up marshmallows. And so I was instructing them the proper technique. It's like, yeah, keep it moving, but then also like, because it was different because it was gas powered as opposed to wood. So the fire wasn't as intense. So you can get away with it. Kind of sticking it closer to the fire, and then like just constantly moving it, but also giving it to rotate, spinning it.
Right. It's the same thing when you do
As
it
you're moving
with.
it around.
Yeah, it's the same technique when you do hot dogs that way.
That's right. You can't. That is also the proper technique. And so it was cool because they were like all like saying, "Oh, how'd you get it to look like this? Like, how'd you get it to be like that and not all burned?" I was like, "Oh, I showed them, and they're all like amazed."
And it's like it's funny because like I would do that too, and it's like that takes too much time. I don't want to do it that way. It's like, well, then you're gonna have a shitty
I know. Well,
marshmallow.
I hope you
Okay,
enjoy your brick of charcoal then.
yeah, yeah. If you love charcoal, you're gonna be great.
Right, your little briquette of charcoal. Hope you enjoy it as I enjoy
You
my
must love.
nice golden brown, fluffy, gooey marshmallow.
It's like you must love coal in your stocking at Christmas time too. So.
Exactly. All right. Let's get into some of the things that we want to talk about.
Let's start with the I guess the funnier of the two stories.
Yeah, let's do the Democratic Socialists. Point of privilege.
So
I think
see, before one thing, Andy, you doing the jazz hands doesn't work. So like you could
right.
be point of privilege. Jazz hands is actually very racist, and
It's like very
uh
ableist. All right, jazz
yeah
hands are
ableist.
ableist. Oh,
I
quick
wish you had been there,
aside.
Andy.
During the party, a lot of the for a lot of the kids, it was the first time seeing a crippled man, and so
Uh,
they naturally were curious and asked me about my hands, and so I gave them the standard line that I give kids is like, and that is when they ask like what happened to your hands, I said, oh, this is what happens when you eat too much candy. It's like, you don't eat too much candy, do you?
horrible nuclear explosion. That's what happened to me.
Yeah. I mean, I used to say like, oh, back in the day, back when I was growing up, if you messed up 3 times, then they'd stick your hands in fire.
I love it. Or it's like, this is what happens when you don't wash your hands.
Yeah, I know, right? I never used to wash my hands after the bathroom. It's like now I'll never be able to wash them again.
That's what you
But
get.
yeah. But anyways, back to the Democratic Socialists. If you didn't know, just was it last week or just this past weekend? I forget.
I don't know if like it was actually last week or the video surfaced last week about this group.
Ah, that's right. That's right.
And because because I don't think it was a public event, but someone kind of was there filming and released the video to oh to I laughed my ass off. It was
Right.
cringeworthy yet hilarious at the same time.
Right. No, so they obviously recorded this in the attempt to draw more people to their movement, but it ended up just being this. It just ended up being a meme. It just ended up being a meme. Because like here is like this auditorium full of people, and they're barely able to get out their mission statement, let alone anything else. And like every few seconds, like like point of privilege. Um, I'm really sensitive to auditory stimuli, and if we could all refrain from clapping our hands, that'd
And
be great.
whispering.
Right? And then like whoever was speaking is like, yes, let's all be sensitive and do the jazz hands.
Yeah. Oh, and that guy was what, like 4 or 5 times within the first, like, what, 10 minutes of this damn thing. It's like, oh, sorry, point of privilege, and my name is blah blah blah, and it's like, oh my god, dude, I would, if I had been, it's like, dude, shut the fuck up, like, sit down, like, at least
Or,
let's get
or,
ten
or what
minutes into
about
the.
the ma'am who was complaining about gendered language?
Oh yeah, that after like it was like after the guy's like fifth quip of guys, point of privilege, and it's like, and then this guy like runs up like 10 seconds after that. It's like, stop using point of privilege, stop using gendered language, and it's like,
No,
oh
it
man,
was hilarious because it was the ma'am from the GameStop, I believe.
was that actually him? Like, was it actually that guy? Did they, or
There,
I
I
mean, it
think that
sounded a lot like him, and it sounded and looked like him.
right, exactly. And I think
Sorry,
I, I think I forget because I
I
saw
don't
the
care about.
video from Amazing Lucas, and I think he does a voice comparison and like kind of like from like because the shot that you see is from the back, so you don't get to actually see the dude's
Right.
face. But just going off like how he sounded, it sounded a lot like the man from the GameStop video.
It did. Because I was like, man, I feel like I've seen this person before,
Mm-hmm.
and then because I know it. What? So then let's see. So you saw it from a different source. I saw that like because Paul Joseph Watson was talking about this too, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like
Oh yeah, I saw
it
that video too.
he noticed that too. Yeah. So I'm wondering. Yeah, that may be the case. It may have been him. And I
Yeah.
don't care about misremembering these people. Like, I'm not gonna lie and say it's a her.
Right. No, let's let's you know and it's funny because um, I realized something, and it's like the it's like it's crazy that the delusion that they live in and that which they call reality.
Yeah.
It's literally a delusion because they expect everyone to placate or to somehow play along with their subjective view of reality.
Right.
And I was just kind of thinking about that, and I was thinking about myself, and I was like, what if I was like that? What if I constantly cried out about like, oh, I can't use, I can't use a fucking knife and fork simultaneously. And I'm like, what if I was at like a steakhouse and I cried ableist privilege and like made a huge stink and got like Black Angus closed down for their discrimination or whatever. And I think
Yeah.
it's like how insufferable would I be as a person? Like, who would want to be around me, other than like
I
these?
certainly wouldn't.
Exactly. I mean, other than like these other fucking lunatics. And it's like, and I realize why a lot of like the leftist like tactics don't work on me specifically because I'm someone who has to live in reality. You know, and and like because there's no other way for me to I can live. It's like I have to be realistic. I have to live in reality. And like yes, there's a lot of things that I can do. There are, but then there's only a few things that I can't do. And I have to be okay with that.
Right.
and I am. There are certain things that I can't do, and I'll never be able to do, and so I have to make my peace with that, and then move on.
Right. The it's with my ex, she for a little bit in her life when she was younger, she was kind of like would get in that way where it's like, oh, why does nobody like cater to me, blah, all this stuff. And she told me like the story like that her parents like kind of sat her down. It's like, listen, it obviously like we're your parents, we care about you, but other people don't. It's like it's if you don't find a way to work around your situation, you will always like you'll never get anywhere. And you know you're not going to be not liked by people, but it's like you're going to be alone
Yeah,
because
people are just gonna avoid you.
right, no one's going to go out of their way to help you, so
Right,
you
and
have to find
also
a way
like
to do it on your
no
own.
one is required to care about you. I mean,
Exactly.
outside of parents or loved ones or very close friends, like no one is required to give a shit about you. You know, and
And
that's something that that I dealt had to like I slowly became starting to like came to realize, and it's like, huh, yeah, like yeah, no one has to give a shit about me. It's like, all right, so I just have to be as capable as I possibly can be, and every once in a while I ask for like the help every now and then.
I sigh. It's like, ah, fine. Yeah. But no, and that's I mean it doesn't matter if you're handicapped or what. It's no one cares about your issues. You have to find a way to work through them yourself. And it's like you as like my friend, you might care. I mean, but there's not a lot that you might be able to do to really help other than show your support and kind of like, hey, you can do it, kind of giving that encouragement. And sometimes for me, that's all I really need. It's like,
Right.
hey, just kind of
Yeah.
you're yeah, it's like you've gone through so many other situations and you come out on top. What makes this one, how how can you not overcome this one? What especially as Christians too, it's like you have the most powerful person in anywhere on your
In the
side. Like
universe, yeah, you have the most
yeah,
powerful being in the universe in your corner as a believer, as a Christian. You have
yeah,
the most powerful being in the universe in your corner. You know, you know, always willing to help you. And you're saying that you can't get through your day because of clapping. I mean,
exactly.
if
Well,
if
these
that was the
people,
case, if that was if that this I'm using this I'm using like the clapping thing as an example of if a Christian if there was such a Christian who was triggered by clapping, it's like you have the greatest force in the universe in your corner, and you're saying that clapping somehow makes you feel unsafe.
yeah, it's
Again,
ridiculous.
if you are a believer, if you believe in Jesus Christ, if you believe, if you are made one with Him through the sacrament, the sacraments and whatnot, then
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like how uh, I don't know how these people make it through a day with all this stuff, and which is part of me thinks that a lot of it's all bullshit. Like they don't actually feel this way, but
mhm.
when they have a platform like where there's people watching them, they want to just be as ridiculous and get they're I won't. I mean, narcissist is kind of thrown around now, but it's kind of that like, ooh, I want the attention, so I'm gonna be as ridiculous as they'll do whatever it takes to get that attention for
Mhm.
themselves. Because in normal everyday life, it's no one cares about them. And I what I talking about this, it makes me think of Simpsons reference upcoming is with the comic book guy. There's I forget what the episode is, but what it starts off where they're at the mall and the comic book guy is trying to return this utility
Oh yeah,
belt that
yeah,
he
yeah,
won at
yeah,
some
yeah.
contest, and it's the guy is kind of making fun of him, and
Right.
then Bart's trying to like buy the belt for like $1 or something like that. It's like
Right. Right. He was like,
ah,
because the comic book guy won this. Sorry about that.
yeah, no
Um,
worries. So it's yeah, he won this utility belt. He's trying to
right at
return it.
a Star Wars convention, and what is it? Yeah, and he tries to return it to like one of those like Brookstone places, and the what is it? The clerk or whatever is just like giving him all like you know all the entire dump truck full of sass his way.
Yeah, yeah, it's like, ooh, a sassy Star Trek fan is like, you must be a Casanova with the ladies.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just like just like giving him like just dumping on him constantly. It's like where it's like he's like saying like, oh, this is a medium-sized belt, and as you know, like no Star Trek fan, wear, can wears like medium,
Yeah, it's
and
like
it's just like, and then so he's like, and so like the clerk is like, all right, well, there's no receipt, so no, no exchange or no refund. And it was
right,
at
and
like
that's
that lowest point where Bart comes in and is like, oh, I'll give you $1, and it's like, and so he
it's
gets
like,
the belt.
ah,
But yeah, it's just
all
like,
right. And it's
but
like I shall return to the comic book store where I dish out the insults rather than receive them. And that's what these people are. They're the fat comic book guy, where it's like they go to this type of platform, or they'll go to places where they can make themselves look like they're like, oh, like they're the shit. And in reality, it's like these people are, I hate to use this word, but they're useless. They provide nothing to society
mm,
whatsoever. Maybe they do. I don't know. Maybe some of them like do something nice for somebody every once in a while, but for the most part, these people are useless. They are in college, teaching gender studies. They're maybe they're working at some like leftist blog somewhere. Uh, worshiping
they're making money.
AOC, worshiping AOC and
Well, we
Bernie
well we all know
Sanders.
that we all know leftists suck at business.
So it's like, I mean, they're not necessarily on welfare per se, but they're not really helping society either. In fact, I think it's more of a degradation of the um, they degrade culture and morality more than anything else.
Right. Yeah, because like I'm sure some of them are your baristas or whatever, but other than that, it's like, well, no one really cares that do like some sort of goat therapy, or you try to rehabilitate hamsters. It's just like but can you change your tire? Can you reset a circuit board? Could you reset what is it, that thing in the house?
Oh, reset the circuit breaker.
Yeah, reset the circuit breaker. Do you know how to turn a wrench? Yeah, because I mean,
It's
yeah, because the joke is like, like they wouldn't last 10 minutes. They wouldn't last 10 minutes of a power outage.
I was like, oh my god, Instagram is down.
But I mean, but on the flip side of all of this, I think what a lot of people are failing to acknowledge is that these people are dangerous, and we all laugh at like their kind of over the top kind of reactions, like point of privilege and gendered language and all. But yeah, if you take a look at that clip again, like that auditorium, I mean, regardless of how big it was, it was full. It was full. It was filled with
Yeah.
people, and we forget that that is the prevailing attitude, prevailing mindset at schools, at at in society at large. That is the prevailing thought. That is the prevailing kind of outlook on on everything, particularly in academia.
Well, this is what we talked about a few weeks ago, talking about with Joseph McCarthy and how he, not only was he right, he didn't go far enough. And the communists have had even before Stalin in World War II, they had infiltrated a lot of
Yeah, a lot
the
of the
West,
unions, a lot of the trade union. Well, not
especially
necessarily the trade unions, but a lot of like the Hollywood trade unions.
well, they went after culture. They infiltrated Hollywood.
Mhm.
They infiltrated the government. They infiltrated all these places. Schools.
Yeah,
They
academia.
infiltrated the teacher unions, the academic unions, and when obviously there was at the height of the beginning of the Cold War, right after World War II, is where there was even before McCarthy, went on his uh, investigations. They had found like where we had a lot of communists that had invaded these areas, and McCarthy, like, he was on the right track. He didn't go far enough, and because he was vilified and stopped,
Well, yeah, because also
this
because they also infiltrated the media. So of course, like they made McCarthy seem like this zealot, going after people merely for having a and I mean it's this is history all over again. This is like this it's it's the media making him out to be someone who's just going after people of opposing viewpoints. That
yeah,
was it.
and
Like
it's
it's like no, they're like oh, they're not trying to overthrow America or corrupt the youth or whatever. There's people with different opinions.
and we look back at that time period, it's like, holy shit, he was right. These
Yeah,
people were, not necessarily the president, but they were at the top levels of influential, not some insignificant bureaucrat. They were actually influential people that, where it's like kind of, because of that, China fell to communism, and oh man, it's
yeah. I mean,
and
what did communism do to China? It hollowed out their entire civilization. There's an entire generation of Chinese people who don't know anything about Chinese culture or like the history, because once
right.
communism came in, they gutted the entire society, the culture, the civilization. Like there was 1,000 years of Chinese history that was not taught to the people of China, and who have like no idea where they come from, or you know what they've done in the past.
Yeah, and
It's now and now it's like happening here too. Like a lot of kids now, they have no idea what the American Revolution was actually all about, or what was at stake. They just think like, oh, white men bad. They had slaves bad, but
well,
they
it's all the
yeah, it's all
revisionist
revisionist
history,
history.
or just not teaching it whatsoever. And a generation or two passes, and you kind of like, and it sneaks up like further. It's like, no, it goes from like not teaching it, and then it's like, ooh, we're gonna vilify it. Ugh. It's where this is why the majority of the people are leftist in a lot of ways. And like when you look at and you show them the truth, you bring light to the situation, it's they have to shut you down and deperson you and
Of course
deplatform
not,
you
because yeah,
because
their whole perspective and viewpoint is that we're victims, and you have power and victimhood. No, it's victimhood isn't bad, but it's not good either. It's
right. Well,
yeah,
they
victimhood is a neutral thing. Yes, we show compassion to people who have been victimized, but we shouldn't reward victimhood.
Well, that's the thing. That's what they're trying to do. They've made victimhood power. So
Right,
it's like if
exactly.
you can show like how much like, oh, uh, I'm a part of this race and I have this problem and blah, like I'm such a victim, and they're trying to win the victimhood Olympics, because you win that, you have all the power, because people will, for what, they'll give you that platform to shout your bullshit.
Hmm.
It's ridiculous.
Hmm.
And it's like but the thing is, like, you look at you know it goes back to teaching history, and we look at, like, obviously, like, ooh, Hitler's bad, Nazism is bad, which it is. Nobody's saying like, woo, pro Nazis, yeah,
Yeah.
boom, like, no one's saying that, like, because they're socialists too. They're in a way, they're communists in a different way, and because they were at odds with the Communist Party in Russia, because Hitler hated Stalin,
Hmm.
and he hated Russia. But that's why I think you have why we're given such a kind of this holy light around, like, Lenin and Stalin, Mao, all these communist guys, Che Guevara, all these guys, and we villainize Hitler, rightfully so. He's a bad dude, um, but he killed way less people than communism has killed. Just in Russia, they killed like some 100 million people.
Yeah.
China, Mao killed like 80 million. Che Guevara, Fidel Castro. I mean, they were shooting children and gays and all sorts of stuff that, like,
Yeah.
the left proposes to
Yeah, I
love.
mean, people don't. Yeah, people don't know this, but Fidel Castro is the one that off Che Guevara because he was being such a psychopath. He was
He
enjoying
was too
himself
radical
way
even
too
for
much.
Fidel. Yeah, he was too much of a psycho for Fidel Castro, who himself was pretty much is kind of
Yeah,
psychotic.
he was. Yeah, Fidel Castro wasn't a saint either, but he saw what Che Guevara was doing. He's like, oh shit.
Yeah, because they were partners for a long time, and
Hmm.
but we it's, I mean, it'd be ridiculous to wear a Hitler shirt, but you're wearing, but people are almost kind of
Yeah, they
giving this hero
romanticize Che
status.
Guevara as like this, figure for liberty and fighting against like the system. It's like, well, he became the system and he fucking murdered children. Like, and he with a
Yeah,
smile, like he was giddy when he, and he would do it like a lot. He would do it personally. He would take the gun, shoot the kid in the face.
yeah. He's a monster. Yet we, like, give him this, like, hero status. It's like, um, yeah, I can't.
Yeah, it just doesn't.
Watching that,
It doesn't make sense.
it's crazy, and yet these people want, uh they want communism, they want socialism. Yeah, it's gonna, and I even, like, looked into, like, kind of like where it all started with Karl Marx, and what a terrible dude that guy was. One of the
Right? Who?
Karl Marx, the guy
Oh,
who
Karl
started
Marx.
communism. Yeah,
Hmm.
he's an idiot.
Yeah.
Because he created this whole system that, because he ruined his life, so he tried to find this weird system that, and I don't know why people bought into what he was talking about without really taking a look at what he was saying. But
Because
he got this
the
ball rolling.
Right, but I think the reason why people gravitated to him because he was speaking to people living in urban centers who like who didn't who's never grown anything in their lives, who's never like grown their own food, doesn't know like the whole what the process is and what it entails to actually grow something.
Right. Oh,
And so
he was
when you talk to someone living in the inner like in urban areas, big metropolitan centers, and they talk about like, oh yeah, everyone should have something to eat, everyone should have a loaf of bread, for themselves. And you're like, yeah, yeah, and someone who's never like grown anything, who's never milled anything, who's never baked anything, it's like, and they hear this like, yeah, everyone should have it. It's like, but they don't know what it takes to make that bread.
Yeah, well, and Karl Marx himself was a degenerate. I think he was a gambler, so he was constantly in debt. Like he owed money to all these pawn shops and whatnot.
Yeah, he's a
And
small hat too.
yeah, everyone talks about like oh, if you could go back in history and like kill Hitler before it all started, it's like I
Yeah,
would
no,
go back and kill Karl Marx
people.
because this is where it all. This is because Karl Marx's philosophy killed several hundred million
100,
people.
100 million people died under communism. 100 million. Yeah, and like
That's
yeah,
just one country.
yeah, that's just one. Was it?
Yeah,
You're probably
that was
right.
Russia
Yeah.
alone.
Well, yeah, I think Russia was like 90 million, and then China was
80.
was
It was like
China
70 or
even that
80 million.
much? Okay,
Yeah.
well, for the sake of us argument. But yeah, people when like I remember someone asked me this like, oh, if you can go back in time, like to avert some like great catastrophe, you know, because basically they were expecting me to say Hitler, but I was like, no, Karl Marx, and they're like
Yeah, that's
they
why.
were surprised. They were surprised I said Karl Marx.
Yeah, and and at this point, at that point you look at those numbers is like at that point it's like you almost have no feeling towards it. It's because it's just a stat. And it's like these
Yeah, I
were
mean, there's that. Yeah,
people that like
that's like that quote from Stalin. It's like one death is a tragedy, a million deaths is a statistic.
right. And it's the thing is like that wiped out generations.
Right? Yeah.
Not just one, generations. Because you think of like one of those people had even if like half, let's say half those people had kids who had grandkids and like they lived a long life, prosperous life, that's generations that are just gone, wiped off the face of the earth, that'll never exist.
Right. Yeah, an entire family line could have been destroyed, or probably was destroyed.
And you look at I was watching that Stephen Mullen video. He's like he had to stop. He's like, God damn leftists. It's like and it's like I because he cared about those people, all that generations gone that are that were wiped off the face of the earth that will never exist. And it's a waste. It's a goddamn waste because of this stupid ideology that these people don't are not they're not told, they're not given the real history of it. And it's given this fashion, this uh, avant-garde status. It's like, oh, it's cool to be socialist, it's cool to be communist. It's let's give Mao and Lenin and all these people this like hero status. Like it's fucking ridiculous. Pisses me off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's just really sad.
it's funny.
It's just very sad that
And what hurts me too is I remember I have a friend of mine, or I don't know if we're still friends. Like I still talk to him every once in a while. But he's kind of growing up. I met him in middle school, and this is a guy that like he loves the United States. He's been in the military. He loves military history and the history of America, and was a diehard. And I don't know if it's, well, he's married now. I don't know if it's because of his wife or whatever, but he's gone, like he's been like pro Bernie Sanders. And it's like you understand like this is a guy who all the we spend a lot of time talking about like the horrible history of communism. This is a guy that went to the Soviet Union, not Russia, the Soviet Union, and is like, yeah, this is a great place. He had his honeymoon in the Soviet Union, for God's sakes. And yet, this is a guy that you want to, give your vote for, that you want to support. Like,
right.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
because
get,
they dress
I mean,
up
I get like,
socialism with the democratic thing. So it's like yeah, so we're gonna vote before we take away your shit.
yeah, it's It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like the reason why communism works is like because it's all false. It's all the government dictating everything. The Soviet Union, they used to import the Sears Roebuck's catalog back in the day, just so that they knew what to price their shit
Yeah.
that they sold in their countries. Like, oh yeah, I don't know, a plowshare goes for $60. All right, $60. Pants go for $10. All right, $10. Yeah, because they had no idea of like the actual value of things, so that they had to rely on American capitalism to figure that shit out.
I hope I'm long dead before we become a communist country. It's on its way. I'm very skeptical. I think it's on its way. I mean, I'll continue to fight for as long as I can, but I hope I'm long dead by the time it
I
happens.
know, but it's amazing. It's like these people who were clamoring, back when like W was president, they were clamoring about how the government was taking too much power, and like it's because what they had like the Patriot Act and all that. Um,
And now they want
but yeah,
to
no, but
give the
now they're
government
like they
more and more
want to
power.
give the government the power. He's like, oh yeah, spy on us whenever you want. Take all the money that you need or whatever. And it's like you morons. It's just like 15, 20 years ago, you were saying that, how government overreach and, spying and, overtaxation was horrible. But now you're saying that you want all those things.
Yeah, well, and that's the crazy part is because I agreed with them like back then. Yeah, because I don't want the. I'm a small government guy. I want the government is far away from my life as possible. I don't want them to affect
Right.
hardly anything.
Right. Yeah. I
Because
mean, yeah. I want the government to be like, I want the government to be like the size of a fly, and only half as annoying.
yeah, and it's like I don't think I've ever been a liberal. I don't. I can't think of a time where I was very liberal in my thinking. But I've
Mm-hmm.
become even more conservative as time has gone on. It's just like, what is going on here? What? Why?
Yeah. I
And
mean, I
because
think.
I pay attention. It's like you look back. It's like 5, 10, 15 years ago. These are the talking points, and and then like these people, the same people that are still in power in government on the left, and it's like, oh well, it's not even saying like, oh, I changed my mind as time went on. It's like, oh no, I never said that. Well,
Right.
let's check the
They
let's check.
completely disavow. They disavow and they claim that it's like that's not what I said. It's like even though there's like the whole like immigration debate, back then like Chuck Schumer, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, they all said like, yeah, we need borders. You need to come in the country the right way. And everyone needs to pay into the system. Now it's just like, oh yeah, everyone should be here. Everyone has a right to be here, and they all deserve, to have taxpayer, welfare.
So yeah, well, let's check the tape, guys.
Yeah, let's check.
Oh, wait a second.
Let's check the record. Can we get the playback? Aha.
Well, somebody hacked my account.
Yeah, I mean, the classic example, the Joy Reid thing. Back when she was just a no name blogger, and she was taking pot shots at I forget who it was, but they're a sodomite, and how she said like these disparaging things about homosexuals, and then it came back. It's like, oh no, that wasn't me. I never wrote that. It's like, well, it's on your blog. It's on your blog, and
Your
you're the one who's
personal
running it.
blog. Yeah,
Like,
it's
oh no,
ridiculous.
I never wrote those things. I never wrote that. And it's like, oh well, if I wrote those things, I didn't mean them, or I've evolved. It's like, well, which is it? You didn't write that wasn't you. You didn't write it, or that was you, and you since changed your perspective has shifted. It can't be both.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm always if someone comes and says, "Hey, I thought this way once," I think this way now. I've changed my mind based off of just as I've grown up, or I'm fine with that. Even if I think you're wrong, I respect that. People change their mind, but to go and say like, I never said that. When you straight out lie, it's like give me a break. That is so. It's like, why would I ever believe anything you have to say?
Hmm.
And that's also like, I know it's not as common. I mean, it happens on the right too, which is not as common as the left, but it's. I mean, it's all these people. It's ridiculous. It's like you can't just do that. Like I said, you can change your mind. That's fine. That happened. That's normal. That's a normal human condition.
Because once you are presented with new information that either refutes or contradicts something that you once believed, and it's like, and then you can make an adjustment. It's like, okay, yeah, I used to believe this thing, but now I don't, or I believe, I used to have this opinion, but but now after getting some new information, I've augmented my opinion. That's completely fine as long as long as you own up to it. It's like, yes, I had this opinion, now it's different. That is allowed. That's completely
Yeah,
acceptable.
it's just frustrating.
Word. All right, I think we've talked this subject to death. So,
Jazz hands.
jazz hands. Hey, ableist. Hey, point of privilege. Ableism. Anyways, let's get onto the big news of the week.
Oh
And
boy.
the news that no one should have been surprised about, and that is the the alleged suicide of Jeffrey Epstein in prison.
you know, Bold exclamation points, quote unquote, alleged.
Alleged. Yeah, like heavy emphasis on the alleged part
um, the
because yeah,
This
because
is something.
I looked into this, and like the whole like suicide watch thing, and it's the idea that's the idea that so many things went like quote unquote wrong for the to facilitate this alleged suicide is just astronomical, astronomical.
Well, here's well, because I called this. I knew as soon as he got arrested, it's like
Dude,
he'll be dead within.
anyone with with eyes and a functioning brain called this.
I said
Any,
I said within 6 months he's dead. It's gonna happen. Um, and there's a couple reasons where I think, like, because I know there's some people that are using like the Occam's razor argument with this. It's like, oh well, don't attribute malice when you can attribute stupidity. Um, but here's the problem I have with that, where it's like, if let's say like one of those things happened, like, oh, he was supposed to be on suicide watch, and then like it just happened, we like the paperwork didn't go through. Okay. But but then it's like, oh wait, the cameras failed. Oh wait, and then there's this. They took out his cellmate that he was supposed to have in there just what, an hour before he died. And it's like, oh, you put all these things together. That to me is like, okay, one thing is like, okay, I'd say that's probably stupidity. Maybe even two things. Okay, stupidity. When it all fails all at once, kind of, it's like that's that's very suspicious. Then you think about like this whole situation makes me think of Eyes Wide Shut, where you have this powerful group of people who are in you know essentially above the law, and they're doing dastardly deeds. They're terrible people, and yet uh, it's like this guy who has, he was a blackmailer too, which is probably how he made his money, by the way. Because you look at his history of his financial, suppose he was in finance, yet didn't really seem to do very well. um,
right? Wasn't he? Yeah, I mean, like he used to be like he used to be some sort of math professor, no?
Right. He was like some sort of professor. He, got into finance, and I think that was the way he wormed his way into like this, high society.
Mm.
And from there, I think that's where he essentially stole money from some of these people to, create to kind of feed his weird desires, and then he used that to get to get information on these people to blackmail them, and I think that's how he kept getting money and like was in
Yeah, of
power.
course. Yeah.
And and as soon as he was arrested, and it's like because or the reason I don't think he committed suicide is because rarely do sociopaths like that commit suicide because they think they can always weasel their way out of it, which
Hmm.
is why I think he was singing like a canary, to try to lessen his
Yeah,
sentence.
he was trying to worm his way out of you know he was trying to get some sort of deal where maybe reduce like kind of similar to the early 2000s deal that he made with former U.S. attorney. Um,
Right.
he was trying to find some he was trying to find some way to break his fall. And that's why that's why he dropped names because he was trying to lessen the
And
deal. Say, all right, I'll give you up this many names or whatever for a reduced sentence or like probation or whatever. But it's like yeah, I mean, and like there's like some people theorizing that he was he was just broken out and now he's like living it up in Tel Aviv. It's like that's not how it works. Because like there's
it's
the like people in that world do not have friends, right? And like and Jeffrey Epstein facilitated a certain thing, and now he's not good for anything. So what? So
right.
what? So what? So why would his supposed friends still have loyalty for him when
They
he's
they
of
want.
no use to them anymore?
I mean, like, and the common joke or meme is that this is part of the Clinton body count, and maybe it
Right.
is. I'm actually like I'm kind of doubtful of that. But it's probably somebody that we don't know that is much more rich and powerful. That is like to kind of like I said, I don't know if like there was like some sort of hired assassin per se that was thrown in there, but it was more likely like that it's people that have an ungodly amount of money that it's like they grease wheels like, hey, why don't you I'll give you $1 million for to kind of maybe make the camera malfunction, or kind of maybe you bungle the paperwork, and so you kind of throw money at like three or four people that are in charge of this whole thing, by money that they have more money than they've ever seen in their life, and maybe you threaten them a little bit too, where it's like they have to do it, um, and uh, and that's how this all goes down. I think it's pretty easy. I don't think it's unheard of for because these guys are powerful. Yeah, and like I said, I bring up Eyes Wide Shut because um, you look at like Dr. Harford. He was trying to look for the truth of who these people were, and the more he dug, he this group of powerful people got to the people that he cared about, up to the point where it's like his family was threatened, and it's like these guys are. It's not. I don't think it's like some government conspiracy, but I think it's people that are outside of the government that know how they are evil people that know how to manipulate and change situations that are involved with this kind of disgusting habits. And Epstein was now no longer a profitable to them, but he was a liability, and you got to cut out loose ends.
Right.
And I was telling you this week, it's like the unfortunate thing is that it's like cutting off one of the heads of the Hydra. It's you cut off one, two more pop up, and I'm pretty sure there's more guys like Epstein that are out there that are just running loose, and people are it's gonna continue. Unfortunately, they'll just find a new place.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like another possibility is he was a. I think another possibility um, for Epstein is that he was extracted, and I mean extracted not necessarily by the U.S. government, but maybe some some third party actors, um, kind of like in the way in Iron Man 2, where you have Ivan Vanko, right, and he's in prison, but all of a sudden this lookalike comes in and he's able to get out, and there's an explosion, and supposedly Ivan Vanko's dead, but he was actually extracted by Justin Hammer, so um, Ivan Vanko could make Iron Man suits for him, and so I think so. Again, another I guess conspiracy theory is that Epstein was actually extracted because again, maybe by the government, maybe by some other government, or maybe a cabal of nameless international figures. But I think the information that Epstein has is too valuable of a commodity to just to lose, or to have it used as uh, or just to be used by the U.S. government. So
They're going to be, raiding the island, but if the evidence isn't already gone, which it probably more than likely is, there's some people that
or I
speculate that it's probably
mean,
just
or the whole raiding the island thing could just be dog and pony show, and who's to say that they didn't have the information all this time.
oh, that, like I said, there's a couple of different, like that's a possible scenario. It's also possible that the information, with once Epstein was arrested, there's probably people that were there that are running, helping run this show,
Mm-hmm.
that they already cleared out all the evidence.
Right.
Or you have where they have people on the inside that are, it's like, yo, just they'll find a way to destroy the evidence. Yeah, it's either way, it's all bad. Like I don't. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not sad that Epstein's dead. I am glad he's rotting in hell, which is where he deserves to be. Um, and event, and as obviously as a Christian, I do believe there's one day where all these people will come to justice. But I want names. I want some of these people gone, out of the woodwork. But with him dead, it's what can we do? These people they're still in power. They're still running this disgusting thing. I'm pissed off.
Mm.
And they're trying. And the other thing that pisses me off, which is why we kind of talk about how, like, they're trying to promote you know pedophilia and human trafficking, is that you have the media. It's like, oh well, it's they're making fun of it being the Clinton body count. Well, it's the Trump body count. They're trying to put it on Donald Trump, who other than, like, yeah, he knew Epstein and had been friends with him at one point, but uh, had never, he's not like, you look at someone like Bill Clinton, who is constantly going to this island and was
Right.
with
There's
Epstein
yeah.
a lot,
There are like
where it's like,
at the very least 20 times that he's been to that island on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. Like his
where,
name was on the passenger manifest for that plane numerous times. You know.
right, where you have, like, the smoke that's there is all around, like, other people. You look at, like, Trump, it's like, well, yeah, like, they knew each other, they had met, and then there was a falling out.
Right. I mean, Trump being well connected and being a tycoon and all that. Of course, like he would have had run-ins with Jeffrey Epstein, but there's only one confirmed. There's only one confirmed log with of Trump being on that plane, and that was and that wasn't from New York to Florida. It was from Florida to New York.
Right, and that because
Right,
that's where
and everyone's like
what's
saying, "Oh, well, he was a
Mar-a-Lago.
member of his of his Mar-a-Lago country club or whatever." It's like that motherfucker Trump revoked that guy's membership.
Yeah, because like he found out that he was doing something inappropriate with um,
With
some of
children.
the women there. Yeah, and he's like, "Get the fuck out! You're no longer welcome here."
Right, and of course, these are things that the mainstream media are not highlighting.
Of course not.
Of course, it's like even yeah, there was that there was Jeffrey Epstein Wikipedia page uh, before he was rearrested and charged, and there was references to Bill Clinton and all these notable Democrats and people on the left. But then right after he was rearrested and charged, uh, they scrubbed that and they inserted Donald Trump. And
Yeah,
it's like the rule. Now it's like now it's confirmed. It's like, oh, well, it's on Wikipedia. It's like if you're taking your information from Wikipedia, then you're a dumbass.
yeah. That's
Especially if they have a system where people can make edits or make revisions.
yeah. You gotta love that journalistic integrity when they're using Wikipedia as a reference source.
Right.
I mean, yeah, like it's like I'll look at it sometimes and but I always take
Right.
it with a grain of
I'll
salt
use it.
because
Yeah. I use Wikipedia as the starting point, and then I'll go and I'll do my own research.
which is what everyone should do. I that's the crazy thing is I can't believe that you have people that are these supposed they're supposed to be the gatekeepers of truth, yet they're looking at a site that is in with any academics teacher worth their weight would say it's like you can't use Wikipedia as a
Yeah. No
reference. Like that's
teacher. No
just
teacher accepts Wikipedia as a
as a
legitimate
source.
source.
Yeah, I would get an F on my paper if I used any source from
Yeah, if I'm
Wikipedia.
my bibliography, if I put down Wikipedia as a source, then I'm instantly gonna get an F.
And they wonder why nobody touches their news. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So
So like I said, I am definitely more on the I'm pissed off. I'm very skeptical, and that it's like this. It's kind of looking at when we talked about Endgame, where Thor kills Thanos. It's like it was not a victory. It was not a victorious defeat.
right. Yeah. It was after the
And
fact.
this,
It was at the point where they couldn't do anything about it. Because Thanos had destroyed the stones. So I mean, similarly, yeah, Jeffrey Epstein's dead, but it's like now the likelihood of prosecution or finding other accessories or co-conspirators is likely not to happen. Yeah, they're dust in the wind. Pardon
it's gone.
pardon the expression.
Yeah, it's poof, gone. But yeah, like I said, I would say in my personal opinion, connecting the dots, this is and they say it's a conspiracy theory. I'm sorry, there's too when you have this way too many coinkydinks. That's where I my antennas my hairs raise up because that's it's like yeah one or two if you it was any one of those things by itself. Okay, maybe it's a coincidence. Yeah, he had kind of um, he had threatened suicide to himself, and yes, maybe it was people being dumb. But when you throw all those together all at the same time, happening within a couple hours of said events, yeah, give me a fucking break. This is some people were paid off, or people were paid off or threatened or who knows, and now we're left with nothing.
And I guess here's what I'll like leave people with. Like I looked into like the whole suicide watch thing, and it's like when you're placed in suicide watch, you're constantly being monitored, or at least you should be. Like there's a guard that checks in every 30 minutes, and in certain cases you're given you're given a cellmate, to keep an eye on each other. Also, there's the cell that you're in is like all the walls are smooth. There's nothing, there's no hooks, there's no nothing on the walls, and like and I'm sure you're not even given sheets, and I think you're given like paper clothing to wear.
Yeah.
And so, they say like, he committed suicide, and like usually the preferred method of prison suicide is hanging.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but again, like how would that have been possible? 'Cause I'm sure he was given like slide shoes, like with no laces. He was in a room with smooth walls. There's nothing that he could have used, there's nothing he could have used as leverage to like hang himself. And he didn't have any sheets.
Yep.
There's just the math just does not add up in the in this equation. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Like I
so
said, I'm pretty sure somebody was paid off to strangle him to death. And then they just said hanging.
yeah, but yeah, we'll just see what happens going forward.
Probably nothing, unfortunately. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm pretty skeptical.
yeah. All right. Let's wrap things up with our movie review.
Sounds like a
And
plan.
this week we are this month I guess we've dedicated to stop motion uh, stop motion films, or films that utilize stop motion.
Correct. Yeah.
And so this week we watched King Kong from 1933.
Love this movie.
Just a quick synopsis: actress Ann Darrow and director Carl Denham travel to the Indian Ocean to do location shots for Denham's new jungle movie. Along the way, the actress falls and meets and falls for rugged first mate John Driscoll. Upon arriving at a mysterious island, Anne is taken hostage by natives who prepare her as a sacrifice to the enormous ape Kong, who rules over their jungle. But when Anne is rescued and Kong is captured, the real trouble begins.
Yeah. Um. So a quick side note on this movie.
Mm-hmm.
The so the when you remember the arcade game Donkey Kong, right?
Yeah.
Um. So when Nintendo put that game out, there was a huge lawsuit from Universal concerning it. It's like, oh, you're stealing
Yeah.
our
IP.
intellectual property. And so they went through this whole court case, and it turned out that Universal never owned the rights to King Kong, and because they couldn't figure out who actually owned the rights to King Kong, because it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't Universal, it wasn't Radio Pictures. So Nintendo won the court case because they couldn't figure out who owned the rights to King Kong. So they were able. So that's how. So that's how like Donkey Kong was allowed to stick around because that was kind of
Oh right, yeah.
that was Nintendo's inspiration of Donkey Kong was King Kong.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that this movie was an inspiration to Godzilla as well. You see a lot of the
Right.
a lot of the so. Anyways,
Mm.
to getting back to the actual
Right.
film,
But because Godzilla was definitely a post World War II creation. So and this movie
yeah,
came out prior to that, so it's only
exactly,
logical. Yeah, but
yeah.
uh,
So Well, why don't you give some of your thoughts about the movie, like what you liked about it, what you didn't
Yeah.
like about it.
I remember watching this, a few times before, as as a kid and whatnot, and not really appreciating it. But now as an adult and watching it, I am absolutely floored by what they were able to accomplish back then.
This movie is almost 90 years old.
Yeah, exactly. 90 years old, and like it's like the technical wizardry uh, in creating this movie was simply fantastic. Um, especially where a lot, where they had to try and make it seamless, kind of transitions from like, when the actors which had to like react to like being scooped up to like them, doing like the whole stop motion stuff and having to react to having to react to a giant gorilla, but then it's not really there. It's just like, but then still making it seem seamless. I think was really great. The story was pretty good as well. Um, and I did see the remake that Peter Jackson did in 2005, I believe it was.
Yeah,
Um,
there's been several remakes of
right, yeah.
this movie. There was one from like the
But then
70s,
I
I
think
believe.
yeah, but the
Oh.
but the Peter Jackson one stayed true more to the 1933 premise. With
Right,
with a
yeah.
few with a few liberties taken here and there. Um, but I think just on the whole, I think this is a great movie. The story was really great. Um, I really enjoyed what is it? Fay Ray's performance. The
Oh, she
actress,
was great.
yeah, the lead, the female lead. I thought she did a great performance. I liked Robert Armstrong, who plays Carl Denham, the picture producer. I liked his character as well. Because even though he was like this seemingly like money grubbing Hollywood type, he was likable.
Yeah, and it's when he met um Fay Ray's character,
Hmm.
it's like because he was looking for I think because he was having a hard time finding the female character for the movie that he was going to be shooting,
Right.
because like, it's like nobody wants to go to some you know who knows where jungle to do a film, because especially it's a dangerous thing. And apparently, I guess when I was looking up information about the film, that there at that time that there were a lot of people that would do the this kind of guerrilla jungle footage, and kind of like of an explorer or scientist exploring the jungle and something happening. That was actually a very popular, whether it be a short film or whatnot at that time.
Mm. Oh yeah, so it's
For
becoming like a bit of a genre.
right, yeah, so that was kind of like, so for Carl Denham to be doing that, it wasn't that was like, oh, that's people do that. That was a popular film trope at the time.
Hmm.
And so he was having a hard time finding the female lead, and so he was starting to look at like you kind of like these rescue shelters, because it was it's depression, so there's a lot of people that he was trying to find anybody that like was kind of down on their luck, but he needed to find someone that was down on their luck and pretty. So
Right.
and he encounters Fay Ray's character, and he's kind of giving her food and all this stuff, and it's like, and she's kind of skeptical at first, because it's like, why are you doing all this? It's like, oh, no, it's strictly on the level. There's no, it's all I need to do is just kind of do
Right.
this. It's all
It's
business
like
with me.
yeah,
Kind
it's
of
like
like
it
there
was
was no
yeah, because
casting
like
couch. She had to
she was
perform it.
afraid it was gonna be like one of those Weinstein situations.
Yeah. So it's
Um, but yeah, but he immediately assuages her of her fears. Like, no, 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 this is completely on the level. I just need a female lead. And I think you're perfect. And so
in that sense, I think, because, well, part of me thinking is like, I don't think Carl Denham knew exactly what he was getting into, because he was even he said like he was kind of going there based off of like the legend and rumor about this
Right.
island.
Yeah, because he
So
could
I
have
don't
like they
know
could have gone to the coordinates, but then like there could have been nothing.
right, and so I think part of it is like because people say like, oh, well, he was kind of still deceiving all these people. It's like I don't really think that that was the case. I mean, you could sure you could make that case, but I don't think he fully expected to know what was going on there. So he figured it
Right,
was just like,
right.
oh, it's
It's
gonna
like
be
yeah, he
like
was
any other
expecting like some like
jungle.
idyllic tropic location. He didn't necessarily think that he was gonna run into King Kong or dinosaurs or what have you.
Yeah, because he ended up
He
like
just wanted
losing.
to go someplace that no one else has been. So I'm sure like all of the typical like kind of jungle locations have been used up, and it's like oh well that's like in Chile or that's in Venezuela or that's that's in Africa or whatever. So I'm pretty yeah.
And
So
no
I'm
one and no one had been to Skull Island, so it's like
exactly
it now he because he's looking like I want as many people coming to my film to see it, and it's like this is gonna be like, oh, no one's been here before. Let's go see what he's shot. Like, and it was more of an intrigue. Not and obviously he had heard the myth of Kong, but nobody knew exactly what it was. They didn't think it was some giant gorilla.
right. They just thought it was yeah. They initially thought it was like some sort of deity or like a great spirit of the native people, and then all of a sudden they find out that it's this gigantic gorilla.
Yeah, and so like I said, I actually kind of like I think Carl Denham he was a good guy that was kind of but he was out for like he was trying to just make the best picture that he could
Right.
and not I
Yeah,
think
and I mean,
he
after like after they capture Kong and everything, and after he's like, oh, the people pay like a fortune to see this. He didn't, and he immediately made all of the ship's crew partners in this endeavor.
yeah that's the other
Instead
thing
of just saying like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be rich. It's like it's like, well no, like these guys like helped me capture a Kong, so it's like yeah, it's like, it's like we're gonna make a fortune, boys. So he just
yeah
wasn't thinking about himself, which is
that's
great.
actually yeah I we kind of forget that part but yeah he it wasn't like oh like well screw these people I'm just gonna it's all about me he's like no
Mm-hmm.
he's like no we're all we all fought this thing together we're gonna make money off of it all of us
Mm-hmm.
that's that's pretty because he didn't have to do that
Yeah,
he
exactly.
could have
He
just
didn't have to do that. He could have just
he could
he
have
could
just
have just
paid
made
them a
it
lump
all
sum
about
and
him.
yeah he could have just paid them a lump sum and it's like send them on their way
Exactly. I guess the only
and
thing I didn't really like is, um, I guess like they like I think what the remake the Peter Jackson remake does well is there's a moment where like you see Kong like interacting with the female lead. Can't remember if they use the same names, but basically the Ann Darrow, in Peter Jackson's King Kong, like there was a moment where there was almost like a kind of a bonding scene in there, where it was more like she was like trying to get on his good side so that she could eventually like, slip away. But in I don't think in the 33 version there was something like that. It was just like he like just took her back to like his lair or whatever, and which is like kind of like like kind of treating her like a doll or whatever.
right I think because you see more of the affection coming from Kong to
Right.
Anne
Mm-hmm.
which is you think is a little bit unusual because like
Mm-hmm.
apparently they've had all these other sacrifices that he would
Right.
I don't know if he just ate them or what um but with her like for some reason Kong liked her
Right.
and
Yeah. He
which
was like,
was
yeah. He
trying to
somehow, yeah. For some reason, she was able to imprint onto Kong more than like these the other sacrifices prior. Um, so it didn't make sense to me why he would be so fixated on her. I mean, other than the fact that all the previous sacrifices were of the native girl, of the native women, and they were all and like and she was like the first white woman.
Racist. He's a racist. That's
Yeah,
why.
he's a racist, or he's just the typical black man. He gets what It's like it's the typical black guy move is like you get with a black girl, you have a baby, and then and then you kind of get established, and then as soon as a white girl comes into the picture, you drop your ex.
What is he, O.J. Simpson?
I know, yeah. But
Oh man.
yeah, because I remember back in the day, people are like a lot of when I started getting into films, and I was talking to other people who were like getting into films, and they presented me this theory about how King Kong is actually about race mixing.
Okay.
It's about society's like aversion to race mixing. It's like about like a black man, Kong getting with a white woman, and how society reacts to it, which is badly, and it ends up in the death of the black man. Which at the time I was
That
like, huh, that's pretty interesting. But then now that I'm an adult, like
that's a
that's
huge.
retarded.
That's like it's like that's a huge stretch.
Yeah,
Like
that is a
the rubber
huge
band is
stretch.
breaking at that point.
What was it?
The rubber band is breaking at that point,
Yeah.
making an actual leap. It's like come on. To me, this is more of like it is kind of in a sense a monster movie where it's like um, it's just like this enigmatic creature that no one really knows anything about.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, where I kind of compare this to like where Godzilla took a lot of inspiration. The people who made Godzilla probably had a lot of inspiration based off of King Kong, as did many filmmakers at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what kind of created the giant monster movies,
Right.
or what they call. I think they call them like kaiju films.
Oh yeah, in Japan. Yeah, in Japan.
Yeah, but uh, yeah, like I said, that's the point. Where it's like you're thinking too hard at that point about the
Right. I
film.
know. It's like yeah, thinking too deeply, about this movie. It's like and
I guarantee that was not on any of the minds of any of the actors, directors, or writers
yeah.
of the film.
Yeah, this original King Kong, it was nowhere near what they were thinking about. They were just trying to make, a really good movie or entertaining movie about, this adventure that these people go on that, they have to, and they go against. It's basically man versus nature. It's particularly prehistoric
Yeah,
nature because they're dealing with
right,
dinosaurs. They're dealing with these this strange this abnormally large a gorilla.
right.
So it's literally man versus nature.
Well, the other thing about this too is because what we were talking about with like the jungle movies that was kind of a genre,
Mm-hmm.
and usually like you'll have like a genre that's like pretty popular, so people kind of like try to recreate that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this based off of that knowledge, you think it's like this movie was kind of like not necessarily poking fun at that, but it was a take on that genre, but it was doing something different with it, where it's like it's kind of like the a film within a film in a way,
Oh, that's
uh,
right.
and
So you're saying
which
that
made
they
me
were
the
trying to be
first,
subversive.
yeah, and um, exactly, and so I
Yeah, but
see
not in
it
that
more
Ryan
from
Johnson
that.
subversive way.
God, we're not going that direction, Andy. We're not going that direction today, Andy. I want to end on a good note. I don't want to end up
All
pissed
right,
off.
yeah, yeah.
um, but yeah, like I said, I like the film. The what they did, uh, cinematography wise, is just this movie's almost
Yeah, it's
90 years
remarkable.
old.
It's absolutely remarkable.
It looks fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It's a and this I would have loved to have seen the reaction of people in 1933
Oh
watching this for the
yeah.
very
Mm-hmm.
first time. I would have, because I imagine it's like they were probably blown away because nothing like this had been done before.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. This was not only was this a revolutionary film, but this film was such an inspiration to so many other filmmakers of that time and future filmmakers. I mean, Peter Jackson, that was what he has admitted. This is one of the films that inspired him to be a film guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even some like like lower tier film guys, like some of the people that run the Cinemasker YouTube channel, James Rolfe, he says like, yeah, King Kong is one of his favorite films, and it inspired him. Like he fell in love with like this type of film, and it's also why he loves Godzilla and all these things, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, so it's inspired many people, which makes it. And this is a film that uh, I think deserves a lot of credit, a lot of praise. It was a good story. Sure, there was some missing elements, and I don't know if like more gets revealed in the sequel to this, which I think is Son of Kong or something. I forget what the sequel's title is.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
but
Son of Kong.
yeah, and so there's some elements missing, but the story was good. The cinematography was fantastic. The music was great. The acting was great. I love this film. I've probably seen it about a handful of times now, and there's more and more that I catch from it, and I love it.
Cool. All right. Yeah, let's give our ratings.
I'm gonna give it a 4, just because like I said, I agree with you that the connection between Andero and Kong, like the affection that he has for her, we're missing a piece
Right.
definitely in
Yeah, there's a
this.
step. There's a step missing.
And I bet you that's the reason why Peter Jackson put that in his film, because he felt like that too was probably missing. It's like let's
Yeah. Thinking about it, yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
and because I think he felt like, because he's a guy that cares about like these old films. I mean, we watched his World War One documentary. That was a huge labor of love, and you could tell how much he
Right. Yeah.
loved that. So
Yeah.
I feel he's doing the same thing with when he did his version of King Kong. It's like, there's one. If I could change one thing, I not take anything away. I'm going to add something to it that's going to give it like a little bit more dimension to like something I felt was missing, because he cared about the film. It's like, let me add this, and I bet you that's why he did it. Um, so in that case, but like I said, all the things I just said, cinematography, like that was 90 years ago almost, and look at what they did, and it looks, to this day, I think it looks great. And and just thinking like, because they did it back then,
Mm,
wow.
yeah.
You have
Absolutely.
a great
Absolutely.
soundtrack, kept you,
Yeah.
the acting was fantastic. I liked all the characters. um, I was, I'm always on the edge of my seat watching it. I just think it's great.
All right. I'm gonna give it a 3.5. Um, I'm knocking it just a half a point less than you because um, I I felt that there's a inconsistency in the look of Kong, particularly from the first reveal. Like I think when you see like the big animatronic one, is like he has a more friendlier face as opposed to when it transitions to like the stop motion stuff where it has like more of like a
Right.
typical angrier like gorilla face.
Yeah, the animatronic, it looks like he has this like weird Cheshire grin on his face. He
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
looks like a
yeah. It
pervert.
like
He looks
there's
like a
like too
pervert
much.
in that.
There's almost like this too like human quality to the face.
He kind of looked like a little bit of a pervert in the animatronic, like
Yeah,
the
yeah, with
big.
a big grin. It's like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so I'm just gonna knock it a half point step. I'm gonna knock it a half step from your score for that, and also because the kind of the missing step that that we talked
Yeah.
about this film. Um, so yeah, that'll do it for our review. Robert gives it a 4. I give it a 3.5. It's definitely a movie to watch just to see just to see the achievement that they are able to uh, do back then. Again, this movie is almost 90 years old. Um,
This is revolutionary film
yeah,
right here.
this was a revolutionary film. So do go and check it out. And it's and it's even though even though it's violent, I think this is perfectly suitable for family viewing. So get the kids to watch this, and I'm sure they'll lose their minds
Yeah.
over this movie. So do check it out. All right, that'll do it for us tonight. That was this is our episode. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us every Tuesday, sometimes live. Not this week though, but possibly next week. Don't
Possibly.
possibly. Don't forget to check out the library of other shows that we have. We have Circle of Jerks main podcast. We have Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, and we have Robert's gaming show, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts: Twitter at PodcastCOJ and Instagram at Circle of Jerks Podcast. And for Robert and myself, we say thank you, and we'll see you next time. Oh, and don't do anything I wouldn't.